Good morning, good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear my voice, see my screen. It looks to me like I got the sound and everything working properly. So, going to dig into a quick little morning prep for everybody. Hope everybody had a nice weekend, was able to detach a little bit and relax some. All right. All right, so let's get started. We had a pretty strong week last week and pretty strong recovery, right? We, just looking at the market at ES, S&P 500, since January, we have been on a nice downtrend, right? And if you connect the highs from that trend, we broke through those last week. So we have a pretty strong change in direction. Definitely something that we want to note and keep an eye out for. Can we go back down? Yes, absolutely. But could we just as easily carry up back near highs? That is also possible. So we'll have to just read price and see where we end up going. No bias, right? We don't want to come in and still be trying to short when it just keeps marching higher. And we don't want to blindly just get in long if we're about to hit some kind of resistance that could send us back down. So one thing I do want to kind of help point out, if you're newer to trading, you always want to try to pay attention to what is volume doing as well as price. You can't just focus up here, you really do need to analyze down here. If you'll notice, our last big drive up to new highs, these volume levels when we got near the highs got very low, right? If you look back at the last volume spikes towards the end of last year, the volume was kind of sending us down. Then the volume would step back and we'd go higher. Then the volume would step in again and send us down. Simple point being, whenever we have more volume this year, higher than average volume, it has been sending us down. And so if we go look at last week and just look at the volume, we did have some increasing volume and then we had some decreasing volume. And if I park right there, you'll see we've had higher volume days in the past, right? So we want to pay attention to what happens when higher than average volume starts stepping in. So basically, just looking at last week's volume, we want to keep an eye out for if we start having volume spikes that get larger than last week's volume spikes, because that could be an indication that sellers are going to step back in. It's never a good thing when we are just increasing and increasing on lower and lower volume. It means that the big sellers are just stepping back and letting it come to the price they want to sell at. So definitely something we want to keep in mind this week. We are through this trend line from the highs. We can continue to keep going higher. But we got to keep an eye on what happens when larger volume starts stepping in. We do have some nice squeezes to deal with. Let's load up my study set here. And now that we have all of our studies in, you'll notice we had a very large daily squeeze cloud, the bottom of the daily squeeze that we tapped Tuesday morning. And since then, it was pretty much a straight path up to tapping the top. That got us back through the daily mean, in fact back through all the daily averages to tap the 200, which has kind of flattened out here right around 44.60. The 200 and the daily squeeze top can continue to be resistance and could cause us to go back down, even if it's just to retest some of these daily moving averages. So going into today, we are in a nice little 30-minute squeeze here. We have a nice big 30-minute Ichimoku right below. The daily 50 cuts right through that at around 44.20. The bottom of that Ichimoku is at 44.15. So, just talking through scenarios and possible thesis. We have a pre-market low and a pre-market, or an overnight high set up here at the 200. So we've got a nice little range here. Let's see, does price action come up and keep rejecting this 30-minute squeeze top to send us to the 30-minute squeeze bottom right at around pre-market low and in this 30-minute Ichimoku cloud. This would be a good spot to go long if we can hold the pre-market low and 30-minute squeeze bottom with the goal of getting back to the 200 and this daily squeeze top for a test during the cash session. Normally what we like to teach is around these larger time frame squeeze top and bottoms is you want to start looking around and gauging a reversal. So I would not be shocked to see us push into this daily cloud top, get a little bit above the 200, and then we end up seeing volume step in, meaning higher than average volume, to push us down and reverse at that daily cloud. It is not uncommon for us to hit the bottom, go to the top, go back to the bottom, and chop around in a daily squeeze before it actually fires. This daily squeeze is pretty thick, meaning we will have to start pushing against one end or the other to get it to become thinner, which is what price likes to do to actually get these to fire. The more and more you use this squeeze cloud, you'll find it starts thin, then it comes in and gets thick, and then we start to push in one direction and it opens back up. So overall for today, we kind of have a range set between this squeeze top, the 200, and the daily 50 and Ichimoku. If we lose the Ichimoku bottom and the daily 50, this little zone here around 415, 420, we could fall back to the daily 8 and the daily 21. We could also just have some sideways action and hold up at these new levels that we've gotten back to in between the daily 50 and the daily 200. All possible scenarios. So let's see what we get today. Let's see if we can hold up the 30-minute Ichimoku and continue this trend into the daily cloud, or if we lose the Ichimoku and start heading back down and just start bouncing around the daily moving averages. In Q, same thing, bottom of the daily squeeze cloud, up near the top, Sorry, let me kill this drawing set. Just so I can see. Yep, we still have the daily 200 up above this daily squeeze. We're kind of hugging the daily 50. And we have a 30-minute and what looks like an hourly squeeze starting to pop up. So let's see if we can hold this 30-minute squeeze, this big psychological 14,300, and try to push through the daily 50 to get up to the daily squeeze top. Keep an eye on Friday's high, because that could be a point of resistance as we get to this 1 hour squeeze top. If we reject these and start heading back down, because we are also at first Keltner up, along with the daily 50. If we reject this area and start heading back down and lose the daily, lose the 30-minute Ichimoku, we do have the daily mean and the daily 8 back down around this psychological 14,000. So just some key targets to the downside, some key targets to the upside. Let's see how this 30-minute squeeze goes and if it fires up or down. And keep an eye on pre-market low and high, because we kind of have a range set now. Alrighty. Also, up near its daily squeeze top. And pretty much the same setup. Ichimoku below to provide support. If the 30-minute fires down and we lose this Ichimoku, we could go back to the daily means below. YM. It's been pushing nice and strong, has already gotten into its daily squeeze top. And the 200 for YM cuts through that daily squeeze top. How long has it been since YM has seen the 200? Let's see, it would have been back here, the beginning or mid-February. And we're almost to the end of March, so it's been quite a while since YM has interacted with this daily 200. So let's see if it can push up through Friday's high into this daily squeeze cloud to tap the 200. I would not be surprised with that being in the middle of a daily squeeze. If YM can actually get up here, we could see a rejection to come right back down out of the daily squeeze top. Also keep an eye on this uptrend on YM. Should that give out in the daily 50, which kind of overlaps it, if the daily 50 should give out, we could head back down to these daily moving averages. Let's see how it goes at this daily squeeze top test. And if we go back, we've got this 30-minute Ichimoku. If we lose, and the daily 50 comes in right on top of the bottom of that daily Ichimoku, or the 30-minute Ichimoku, sorry. So if we can't hold this squeeze bottom and the bottom of this 30-minute and the daily 50, we could accelerate down to the daily 8. But if we can hold up here, this could be a good spot to go long on tech, playing up to Friday's high. And I'm sorry, not tech, on YM, playing up to Friday's high and to the daily 200. I'll dig through some individual names and I'll probably rattle through pretty quick. Apple has got a good bounce. It overswung the daily 200 just a little. Now it's trucking right back up. We do have the daily 50 above, overlapping with the first Keltner up. So we'll see if Apple, sorry, just getting this zoom right, there we go. We'll see if Apple can hold pre-market low, get through pre-market high, and start the journey up to the daily 50. Apple has a 4-point ATR, so it can get there today. But it has to get through this hourly squeeze top, which kind of aligns with the after hours high. And we should have a 30-minute squeeze. Yeah, just barely starting to pop up, so. AMD. One thing I noticed on AMD, looking at the higher time frames and drawing trend lines from the highs, like we've shown on, like I showed on tech and on the market. I showed how if you draw a trend line from this year's highs, the S&P has gotten through that now. The same is true for tech and a lot of names, but you want to look around and see what names that's not true for. So for AMD, if you draw a trend line from these highs, we are just knocking on that door at the same time that we are potentially set to test this 200 and daily 50 moving average range. Basically this 115 to 118, which has been some resistance in the past. So now we are set to test this range. At the same time, it is the trend line from the highs of this year. So AMD could be a very good indicator if it can't get through this first Keltner up and these daily 200 and daily 50 can't get through right here and starts heading back down. That could kind of be an early warning for tech. While a lot of names have gotten through their resistance from the highs of this year, AMD has not. So we'll want to keep an eye on that. We're also at this key 114.5, very key level. Even with that strong week last week, we barely shot past it, rejected it, now we're still at it. Got this nice little wedge going on the 30-minute Ichimoku below. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a 2-hour. So 2-hour wedge going on. 2-hour Ichimoku below. And I want to be on a 30-minute, come on. There we go. And yeah, it looks like the pre-market lows align with this 30-minute Ichimoku. So if we start to lose those, we could shoot through this zone down to 110 and 109, which is the bottom of the hourly 2-hour squeeze, actually. That is just starting. And on AMD, it looks like the daily squeeze top is up at the third Keltner up. So we'd have to really get moving to go test that. And this key level of 122. Amazon. If we go check on the higher time frames, Amazon is getting through its resistance. It's downtrend from the highs. And we have the Amazon split news. So this thing could keep trucking, but it is already up to the second Keltner up, and the third Keltner up kind of aligns with the daily 200 up above at around this 33.33, 33.60. So let's see if Amazon can keep trucking. I'll probably end up adjusting this trend line to follow these lows up, because once that breaks, we'll probably see a quick reversion to the mean before continuing higher. And on Amazon today, yeah, where we've got second Keltner up above, 32.37. We've got the Ichimoku down below, kind of back at the first Keltner. So let's see if Amazon has some profit taking and a 30-minute Ichimoku bounce along with the first Keltner before going higher, or if it just takes off right through Friday's high and keeps trekking up to the daily 200 and the third Keltner up. BA had some bad news with that plane crash in China. Personally, not going to touch this one. It did gap pretty far down and through and below the 30-minute Ichimoku. You know, we've seen these plane crash drops before. Sometimes it can vacuum right back up to fill the gap because more information comes out, like maybe this is an older plane that hasn't been serviced and blah, blah, blah. So we'll just have to see how that unfolds. Personally, probably going to stay away from this one. But if YM is strong and this news isn't too bad, this could vacuum right back up to where it closed. And at least that 30-minute Ichimoku top. Cat has been going strangely up and kind of sideways. It almost got to the third Keltner up before coming back a little bit. But it's got a trend line from last week's lows, which is starting to intersect with this squeeze top. So we could see Cat break that, come back to its 30-minute Ichimoku, test Friday's lows before heading higher to try and fire out of these squeezes. If it loses this 30-minute Ichimoku, it's probably going to go back to the daily 8 and this first Keltner up from the mean. CRM has been very strong. Had a pretty darn strong week, and it's already running into its daily squeeze top. So let's see how this goes. If it can keep moving and get outside of this daily squeeze top, it has the third Keltner up, where we usually see reversals. So it's getting a little extended. Wouldn't be surprised to see it reject this daily squeeze top and start heading back to the Ichimoku and the daily moving averages. Facebook finally had a decent week. So maybe Facebook is done getting beat up and is actually tradable again. I mean, frankly, if you got in at any point Monday or Tuesday, this, pushed 15 points, 16 points past 200. So strong week for Facebook. It's definitely getting back on my radar. It is at the top of what I'm assuming is a daily squeeze. Yep. So as we arrive at the first Keltner up and these daily squeeze tops, let's see if we start to get a rejection, if volume starts to step in, to at least take us back to the daily means. Google, same thing on pretty much all of these. We're getting near these daily squeeze tops. Google's almost back to the 200. Let's see how that test goes, this 2746, and see if it sends us back down. GS has earnings approaching in less than a month. Strong week for GS. It is approaching first Keltner up, and it's already set a new pre-market HOD over Friday's HOD. So banks look like they might potentially lead at open. Although, we don't have a ton of data, but it is trying to gap up while most of the market has got a tiny gap down. So let's see if finance is going to try to lead and if GS is going to try to push up to this 350 and the first Keltner up. JPM will be pretty much the same thing. Has a few more squeezes, so let's see if runs into resistance at Friday's HOD and these squeeze tops, or if it can just blast through and fire these up to get to the first Keltner up. If it can't get through these squeeze tops, probably coming back to this Ichimoku bottom and test Friday's low. Microsoft. close back at 300 off of this daily squeeze bottom, getting close to the top, getting up to 305, up to almost 310 is the daily squeeze top, where we could see a rejection and come back to these moving averages, which kind of are all stacked in the middle of the daily squeeze. So even though we had a good recovery pop last week, we are not back in a bullish market by any means yet. Can we push higher? Yes. But I would not be surprised to see us kind of go sideways for a little bit and bounce around these daily squeezes top and bottom and bounce around these daily liquidities, which are all stacked in between. Netflix. Very strong week last week. You know, you guys, we want to kind of pay attention when these 30-minute Ichimokus pull very close to pre-market action in a trend, right? We have got a trend that's going on, and now as we start to go sideways, we're going to get close to this 30-minute Ichimoku. For a trend to continue, it has to tap and bounce. So we have a good potential on a lot of these names today to come down and test 30-minute Ichimoku. We want to see those hold and bounce to confirm the trend wants to continue. Otherwise, we're going to probably fall through and we might start a new trend back down. NVIDIA, very interesting, very strong. It is above its daily squeeze and at the first Keltner up. Let's see if it just wants to keep beasting right through everything to get back to 285.25 above, but that puts us near the third Keltner up, where we're starting to get a little overextended and might need to see some profit taking and come back a little. Gonna be a little careful on NVIDIA. It has definitely been strong. NVIDIA and Tesla led last week, pretty much all week. But they might be getting a little overextended. So let's see. We do have a tiny little 30-minute squeeze that it's saying is starting to fire. Let's drop down to a 3-minute so we can see it a little better. Come on. There we go. The top of which is near 267. So let's see if VIDI can get up to 267, test this pre-market high of 268 to try to get up to 270, 275, 280, 285, right? Let the second Keltner that we are kind of going to be hugging around open could provide resistance, send us back down. Our 30-minute Ichimoku is actually just down below at the first Keltner. So some targets to the downside and the upside on VIDI. Qs. Off a daily squeeze bottom, up near the top. We've got the daily 50. We've got second Keltner up above and the daily 200 up above. Q's had a gnarly wick here up to 355, pretty much tapping that daily squeeze top, and have settled into a 30-minute hourly squeeze right at the top of this 30-minute Ichimoku. So let's see if we go all the way back to the bottom of the 30-minute Ichimoku for a test around 346 to 348, or if these squeezes can hold us around 348 to send us higher back to test this 355 pre-market high and the daily squeeze top. Roku, strong week. Again, another name like Facebook looks like it maybe is done getting beat up. Let's see if it's getting through trend lines from the highs. Not entirely, right? We'd have to get up to the daily 50 and through it to really be getting through this year's trend line from these highs. So, not quite out of danger yet. but it has made it back to the mean after being close to the third Keltner down. So let's see, it's in a 30-minute squeeze. Let's see if that holds it up and can send it higher to this 128, 130. If not, and it loses this 30-minute squeeze bottom around 123, we could be going back to the bottom of the Ichimoku, where the daily 15 and daily 8 will be sitting around 116, 118. Shop. Shop is crazy. Had not even that eventful of a day, shot up to 780, so $100 up at right at close, and we'll be closing right back, or we'll be opening right back at 700. We've got a squeeze from 722 and a 672, kind of that low before close. So let's see if we can press through the first Keltner up in the 720 to push back up to the second Keltner in the 780. If we reject 720 and go to visit the bottom of this 30-minute squeeze, we might tap this first Keltner down and the daily mean before we take off higher, where it looks like they want to take it. SPX made it back to the daily 50, daily 200, nice wide zone, 30 points, 44.30 up to 44.60. We could just bounce around in here, kind of holding up this first Keltner and the daily squeeze top for a day or so, allowing our averages to slowly start to catch up. Or volume could step in at this daily squeeze top. Where is my time frame that I'm looking for? Oh, I'm on it. Okay. If we reject this daily squeeze top and the daily 200, could send us back down, where the daily 50 and the first Keltner are kind of overlapping around 44.30. The daily mean and Ichimoku bottom are kind of back down near 43.40. And we have psychological 4400. So let's see if the squeeze top keeps providing resistance around this daily 200. We could march right back to 4400 for a test, and this 30-minute Ichimoku for a tap to see if the trend is going to continue. If not, we've got the daily averages down below as targets. SPY, same as everything else, right at the squeeze top. We're already first Keltner up. Let's see if we can get through 446 up to 450. Well, we could reverse in there, give up these trend lines from the lows, and head back through 30-minute Ichimoku 440 to get back to the daily means, which have been slowly moving up to 433. Tesla. And then we'll wrap this up. Tesla, bottom up squeeze, top up squeeze. Here we are. 930, going to be very key to see if we can get through that and this daily squeeze to keep trucking up to the second Keltner up. And third Keltner's up at 950 and 1,000. If we can't keep this momentum going and we give out the trend line from the lows, definitely draw that in. Because if we dip too much today, we could be breaking the trend line from the lows if we don't bounce at this 30-minute Ichimoku around 890. Losing 890 and this Ichimoku top kind of aligns with losing the trend line from these lows. Could send us to the bottom of this Ichimoku and the daily mean before we continue higher. And last but not least, I know I said Tesla would be last, but we always check in on VIX. VIX, from the top of this daily squeeze at around 37.50. Here we are at the bottom at around 24.50, right? In fact, we're hugging that right before open. So let's see if VIX wants to go retest the lows in this daily squeeze bottom, allowing the market to pop up and test daily squeeze tops. And then let's see if everything gives us a reversal. VIX bouncing off daily squeeze bottoms and the market and names bouncing off daily squeeze tops, just for everything to come back to their means before continuing. Hopefully this prep was helpful. Good luck today, everybody. We'll see you in the room.